Yo, what's up, and welcome to episode 184 of Throwback Hoops. My name is Rob Clayton, and I'm joined as always by my main man, Woody V. What's happening, mate?
Sup, Robbie? Ignite Cup starting tomorrow, right? You know all about it, right?
Well, you're going to tell us a bit more about it in the show, so looking forward to that. Great to have you, mate. Apologies, my voice is still not right after last week. It's been a rough few days for me, but I'll do my best to get through today. So before we get into everything, please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. So as always, Woods, we're going to start with some jerseys. I see you're rocking a pretty topical one at the moment, so why don't you show us what you got today? Woods is standing up, rocking the number 1 New Orleans Pelicans Zion Williamson jersey.
And Robbie, I don't know, have you worn a Zion jersey on this show? Have I?
Do you know, funny, Woods, I've got a Zion jersey, right?
Yeah.
And before you even told me yesterday you were wearing that, I was thinking of wearing a Zion jersey as well. But when I looked at my collection, I don't appear to have one. So I've got a jersey, but not a jersey. So no, there's never been one worn on the show.
Okay, cool. So, I wasn't going through all his accolades and everything. I want to more talk about Zion and the kind of impression that he left on the Australian public after leaving. We're going to get into the NBA, NBL games shortly. But the kind of impression that he left on the Australian public was a really good one, wasn't it?
Mate, I think he's gained a few more fans on this visit. You know, I was watching those games with my daughter. She was saying, "Wow, he seems so nice." You know, he was so engaging, that big sort of smile and personality that he's got there. So I think he's really gained a few more fans there, and it just seems so natural, didn't it? He seemed to really enjoy his time here. He loved the engagement with the fans and everything else like that. So I think my opinion of him's gone up in seeing that, as yours probably has too, right?
Absolutely, right? We kind of heard a lot of things about him, his injury history, some controversies as well, but we didn't really get to know the person fully till we got to see all these interviews. Another side of him which we got to see down here in Australia. And as you said, his willingness to give his time up with the kids, the fans, the media, was just awesome. And the second part of the question I wanted to ask you is, how good did he look? I mean, he's in some great shape. Can we expect to see a 60-65 game season from Zion Williamson this year?
I really hope we do, right? I mean, he's got such speed, doesn't he, and power. He can take those couple of dribbles. He's a left-hander, so everyone seems to always, overplay and forget people are left-handed there. But yeah, if he can stay healthy, get to the basket, he's always been a willing passer. We know he's
Absolutely.
a good rebounder there. So yeah, let's just hope. I think health is the only issue there, and he's setting himself off in the right, thing there with being in shape, and that's a good start going into the season. But yeah, really, really hope it does work out for him this year, right?
Yeah, well, that Pelicans team are going to need a lot from him, right? Looking at the rest of that roster, a lot is on his shoulders, right?
Yeah, I think they're really going to miss DeJounte Murray. I think he's out until the new year there, so you're right, a lot of responsibility will go on those big shoulders of Zion, and yeah, certainly gained a few new fans in Australia, I would have thought there. So
absolutely.
Nice one, Woods. Nice looking jersey too, and you're rocking the Kings hat there. I know
we
you're
did get
about that Ignite Cup. Yeah,
first win of the season as well, right?
You were there, and we'll talk about that one. So, all right, well, this is one I've been wanting to wear for ages, and you can probably see the logo there. It's a Reebok one, right? I know we don't rock a lot of Reebok ones there, but I thought I'd keep the New Orleans theme, so I'll show you who I'm wearing today.
And for those who can't see, Robbie's wearing the New Orleans old school Hornets Anthony Davis jersey. And of course, AD part of the Hornets and the Pelicans as New Orleans.
This is Baron Davis, right?
Was it Baron Davis? Was it?
Baron Davis, right? Yeah, no Reebok Anthony Davis ones around. So,
of course. My bad.
This is an absolute cracker, this one here. This is a really nice jersey. I don't know why I haven't worn it until now. So, yeah, Baron Davis, bit of a blast from the past. So, I'll just talk a little bit about Mr. Davis there, Wood. So, he played 13 seasons in the NBA after getting drafted out of UCLA by the Charlotte Hornets at pick 3 in the 99 NBA draft. So, he was pick 3 behind Elton Brand and Steve Francis. So he went on to play with the Hornets, both Charlotte and New Orleans, and then also played with the Warriors, Clippers, Cavs, and Knicks. Someone that I really enjoyed watching. So the 6'3" point guard had a number of accolades, including a 2-time All-Star, 1-time All-NBA third team. Also led the league in steals on 2 occasions there. So 2004 is the year that he was All-NBA third team and an All-Star. So he was really sizzling around that time there. His final NBA game was in May 2012, where he suffered a serious knee injury in a playoff game, and his career was often impacted by injuries, including knee and back injury issues there. So it was a shame he potentially couldn't have played any longer there. So B. Diddy, as he was known, finished his career with averages of 16, 7, and 3. And he was a fan favourite, especially in the early parts of his career, where he's known for highlight reel moves and some highlight reel dunks as well. As we've, I think you and I have spoken offline. We watched an NBA greatest 100 plays from the last 25 years, and he had a couple of good plays in there. A big dunk over Andrei Kirilenko. So he's still only 46 years of age. Post NBA, he spent some time in the Big Three, as well as having a number of business interests that are going on there. So, yeah, Baron Davis, right? What were your memories on him?
Huge fan of his, man. The bodyguard is what I called him, right? Just a big body. And like, just transcended the game of basketball. You mentioned some other interests he had. He did the Cribs and Bloods movie, right? The Cribs movie or something. He did a documentary.
And other stuff
and just a great knowledge of the game and a great commentator, like when he's on various different podcasts in various different mediums and he speaks about the game. He's so knowledgeable and intelligent. And obviously that Golden State team, I know you talk about New Orleans, but man, he was a real mentor for the likes of Monta Ellis early in their career. They obviously had that crazy victory over the Dallas Mavericks, right? And we remember that you talk about.
It's the old era of Golden State, isn't it? We're talking about there before, all the guys like Steph and sort of those guys joined there. But yeah, someone that was really fun to watch. Great jersey, right? This one, loving the colours on this one. It's all sort of popping the nice, what is that? Sort of the teal at the top mixed in with the yellow. So how have I not worn this one before? I don't know. And I've got an extra thing today, Wood. So not only have I got card of the week, I'm also showing another bobblehead. It's been a long while since I did that. Thought I had to show a bobblehead, given it's the exact same jersey that I'm rocking today.
Nice.
So, Baron Davis, Pepsi Stadium giveaway thing that would have happened. I think it's. Oh, hang on. No, it doesn't have a year on it. But this is pretty random. These ones. These are so hard to get in Australia now with the cost of sending things over and GST and those sort of things. But isn't that nice? The exact same jersey I'm rocking there. So actually looks quite like him as well. It's not like one of those generic sort of ones. So. See if he agrees. He seems to like it. So, yeah, bit of Baron Davis there. So I thought I'd pull out the props this week. Woods, I haven't shown a bobblehead for quite some time, so maybe we'll see a return of that back sometimes, right?
Yeah, shout out to B Diddy, man, and love the bobblehead, right?
That's right. All right, well, I'll finish off with the card of the week. Another reasonably fresh one I've got, Woods. It's someone we're watching in the NBL at the moment. This is his NBA auto card. So it's a Panini Prizm 2019-20 NBA rookie auto card for none other than Admiral Schofield. It's got a nice Washington Wizards Admiral Schofield rookie auto card there. So, yeah, this one only recently came. I know I showed one, I think, of David Johnson and a few other people. So I thought I'd continue that theme and show someone that's, now playing in Australia that I've got his NBA auto card. So, pretty nice looking card, that one too, right? Admiral Schofield?
Yep.
Some quick thoughts on Schofield so far?
Cairns need a little bit more from him, right? I just think that for someone his size, he should be rebounding the ball at a better rate. It's you be that 3-and-D guy in the NBA, right? And you come to the NBL and you've got to adapt, and it sometimes takes a few games to find your feet. So I'm expecting more from him in the coming games.
Yeah, fair call. I think he'll probably deliver it too. So, all right, nice one, Woods. Well, plenty to talk about as we say every week. So we're going to start off with a few quick hits, and we'll sort of finish off that segment with some more NBA burning questions. So I want to start with this historic NBA versus NBL games that took place in Melbourne over the weekend. So it was the first time an NBA team had played in Australia. On Friday night, we saw a really good game, let's face it. United pushed the Pelicans for a lot of the game. New Orleans ended up winning 107-97. And it was that was only, the margin was only decided in the last minute or so. I mean, United had a chance, I think, to push it to 3 or 4 points. They missed a couple of open threes there. They really put in a good effort. So, and then the second game on Sunday, it was a lot more lopsided, this one. It was a 127-92 win over the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. In that first game, and maybe let's start there, Trey Murphy put up 18, Zion had 15. Milton Doyle was really impressive with 25. In the game on Sunday, Sadiq Bey, shout out to Sadiq Bey playing again after a year and a half. He got injured playing for our Hawks a year and a half ago. He had 21, Jordan Poole 15. And for the Phoenix, Geordie Hunter had 17, Sobey and Aketchali had 16. But let's go back to the first game and a little bit of thoughts in general. What were your sort of takes on that game against United?
Well, the vibe in the stadium was awesome, right? It was just a great feel about that Friday night game. I think Melbourne United, firstly, Coach Vickerman put 13 guys in the game. It was a great opportunity to get everyone playing. I think the boys on Overtime were mentioning it the other day. Milton Doyle could take some shots quicker in the offense, because the way the game's played is different rules, NBA rules. So he kind of got a little bit more of a leash, and he saw what he could do at that level, which was really good to see him, be able to compete at that level. A veteran who's been around the world, didn't get his opportunity in the NBA. So that was something that really stood out to me. But it was a these guys came off the fly. They hadn't spent a lot of time in Australia yet. So Melbourne nearly caught him sleeping, right? And it was a really entertaining game and one I thoroughly enjoyed. Yeah.
I felt bad, and I forget his name. It was one of the younger guys from Melbourne.
Jeremiah Fierce.
No, the guy from Melbourne that came on. He missed both free throws.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
Like, oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
So he can't say that he scored a basket. He scored a point against an NBA team. That was bad there. But maybe let's talk about a couple of the Pelicans. I mentioned Trey Murphy. He was impressive. He didn't play in the second game there. He's someone they've got really high hopes for this year. Zion was really good, 15 points. He just played the first half in both those games there. You mentioned Jeremiah Fierce. Give me some thoughts on him. He wasn't shy, was he?
Wasn't shy. He put up a lot of shots in that first game, but it was like it shows the kid's got confidence, right?
Yeah.
And he's willing to go out there, and it was sure, it wasn't a real NBA game, but when given the opportunity, he's not lacking, that. And Zion supported him at the end in an interview. He's like, yeah, Jeremiah had a lot of open looks today.
Yeah.
He did knock a few down, but they'll come the next day. So he's got the support of his teammates and the coaching staff. And you saw in the second game that some of that started to come together, right? But yeah,
Absolutely. And rather than sort of go too much into the second game, as I mentioned, it wasn't much of a contest there. It was a 35-point win. I wanted to ask you just more about the success of the Pelicans coming here. And look, I think we probably both regretted that we didn't go down to Melbourne for it. I know we've spoken about that. It's probably something we should have done, but we didn't. It seemed to have been pretty popular down there, successful. They ran it pretty well. There wasn't competing with any other games. The AFL finished last week. The NRL Grand Final was after the second game had been played. So I thought that was pretty good timing the way they did it there. But did you like the format? Give me some sort of general thoughts on what you thought it was like.
Yeah, I did like the format. There's talk of regular season. It's really difficult to have a regular season NBA game with the long flights and time differences and things. So this did work. And I tell you what this did, right? It's a different demographic that's coming to this game. It's not that NBL fan base. Well, some of them are the NBL fan base, but some of them are that NBA fan base who have the attitude, yeah, we're not about the NBL. We don't want to watch it. We're all about the NBA, right?
Yeah.
So they came and they saw a guy like Milton Doyle, Geordie Hunter. Guys compete at the highest level, and that the respect is there for the NBL. So what this is going to do is drive more fans to watch the local league here, the NBL here, that previously may not have done so. So more events like this is not only going to promote the game in this country, but it's also going to promote the NBL as well. So I think that's something that we can gain from this.
You think if it does come back to Australia, maybe Sydney gets the call up next time? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, you can have the Giannakopoulos tournament next time, Melbourne, and we'll take the NBA, NBL, right?
Yeah, I'd definitely be up for that. And get the Atlanta Hawks down next year, we'll be happy with that. So, no, I really enjoyed it. It was pretty historic. It was. I was really excited, especially on the Friday nights for that first tip-off to say, wow, we've finally got an NBA team playing here. And it looked like they all enjoyed coming here as well. Some of those shots of them going to various zoos and those sort of things was pretty cool. So.
Yep. One more thing, I think, is that Friday night game was a really good time slot. I know it's difficult with logistics and things, but the NRL Grand Final was on straight after the Sunday game, and Melbourne United were in the NRL Grand Final, right? Not that people in Melbourne care that much
Melbourne
about
Storm, not
Melbourne Storm.
Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies. Melbourne Storm in the NRL, right? So maybe get the timing a little bit better and on that.
I thought it was good. Like I said at the start, I mean, the AFL finished last week. It wasn't really competing with a lot of other things there. They cleared with the NBL schedule, so there wasn't even NBL games those nights. So I think they did a pretty good job with that. But yeah, let's hopefully get it in Sydney next year. Share the wealth and the love there, right? So good stuff. All right. Well, as we mentioned, NBA season's now less than 3 weeks away. Woods. I feel like I've been putting that countdown. The Atlanta Hawks played the preseason today. I'm not going to ruin the result for you, but it was great to see some Hawks running around and see KP and Nikhil Alexander-Walker with the longest name ever on the jersey, and Luke Kennard. It was great to see the Hawks back.
Can't wait,
It actually
man.
got me really excited for the season. So we're going to continue these burning questions we've been doing the last few weeks. I think there's been some positive feedback. People have enjoyed us doing that. So we've picked a team each this week. You're going to speak about the Miami Heat. I'm going to speak about the Golden State Warriors. So, yeah, why don't you take us away with some Miami Heat burning questions?
Yes, well, before I do that, I must say, Robbie, when you said we're going to preview the Miami Heat, I reached out to our good friend, the Sydney Sea King, all the way in the United States. Shout out, a resident Miami Heat expert, right? And I said, give me the 3 burning questions that we should focus on, right? So thank you to the Sydney Sea King for your research and your support and giving us the content for today. So I'm going to actually read out 3 burning questions from him after I go through the depth chart. And we can tackle them, Robbie, ourselves. And I'll give you some of his thoughts as well. So just bringing up the Miami Heat roster as it looks there. You've got Davion Mitchell and Norman Powell in the backcourt with Andrew Wiggins at the small forward position and We've got Nikola Jovic and Bam Adebayo at power forward and center. I mean, there's a chance that Kel'el Ware would probably start alongside Bam Adebayo, and Jovic will probably come off the bench because that's the way Spoelstra was going towards the end of last year. So let's see how that plays out. Quickly, your thoughts on this roster, Robbie?
Well, interestingly enough, Woods, the Heat played today and they did start Jovic at the 4 there, and Kel'el Ware came off the bench. Kel'el Ware, I think, had a double-double off the bench, and Jovic put up a crazy line. It was like 7 points, 8 assists, 9 points or something like that. So really sort of mixed bag. They're running a bit of the offense through him there, but look, it's not a bad starting 5. Obviously, Tyler Hero will be back sooner rather than later, and that will strengthen things up there. It's not a bad 5, I've got to say. I mean, there's some decent depth there as well. You put Tyler Hero back in that starting lineup. Potentially Wiggins or Powell will be the one that comes off the bench there. You've got veterans like Terry Rozier there. Haskins Jr. He's developing. He's a solid player there, and yeah, probably that third tier there. There's no one that really stands out there unless you're a big fan of Pele Larson there, Woods, which you probably are.
I do like Pele Larson.
Simone Fontecchio. He's not bad, but yeah, it's not a bad roster on paper.
Yeah, I have a feeling Tyler Hero will start at the point guard position.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
And Norman Powell will...
But they loved Davion Mitchell the way he came onto the playoffs last year as well, didn't they? He had some really good moments there.
So while we're on that, let's go to the 3 burning questions that Sid has given us, right? And the first one is related to the point guard, right? And look, we had a chat during the week on our group chat, and I was telling him, like, look, you have to look as far back as Tim Hardaway to find an all-star point guard on this roster, right? And I was looking even further back, and there's not really been anyone in their history, right? You got Bimbo Coles back in the day, maybe.
But, what about some love for Chris Quinn, Woods?
Yeah, you got Carlos Arroyo. Like, I looked through all the point guards that they've had. So this is the question, right, that Sydney has given us, Sydney C. King has given us. We talked about point guard depth concerns for this team. This has been my number one thing about the Heat. They've been without top-tier point guards for too long. We're great at getting good point guards who are past their prime. He talks about White Chocolate. He talks about Gary Payton. He refers to, as I said, we have to go all the way back to Tim Hardaway. You can throw in Kyle Lowry in there recently, Robbie. With Hero out for around 6 weeks, there's going to be a lot of Davion and Drew. This doesn't inspire me much. I'm not going to say anything about Rozier. That's for you two to chime in on. The only saving grace is Spurs' offense by committee. So talk to me, Robbie. His concern is obviously the depth at that position.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. Have they got Russell Westbrook's phone number by any chance? Because that could be a decent sign. I still cannot believe less than 3 weeks that the great Russell Westbrook is still unsigned. I mean, surely he gets picked up soon. I really hope he does. That's crazy. It wasn't like he was a scrub, averaging 3 points a game last year. But yeah, I think the concerns are valid there. It's probably a position they do need to shore up. Maybe, like I said, Davion Mitchell coming on well at the end of last season perhaps gave them a little bit of hope that they didn't need to, maybe rush out and get someone there. They did make that trade, getting rid of Kevin Love and Slow-Mo there to bring Norm Powell to the team, which I think was a good signing there. But yeah, it's exactly right. Point guard has been a weak spot for him for some time now, and it's probably something they need to address sooner rather than later, right?
Yeah, for sure. And what did I tell you about Terry Rozier all last year? What did I tell you? Washed.
Yeah.
Washed. Yeah. 29% from 3 last year. He just couldn't be played on the court. And to your question, Sid, Drew Smith, before he got injured last year and was out for the season, he was showing some promise, right? Before Davion joined the team, he even had that starting gig for a little while for a few games and got a season-ending injury. I liked what I saw from Drew Smith, so interested to see what he can bring to the table this year. But I think, Tyler Hero, they're putting a lot.
Well, question there, Woods. Can you play Davion Mitchell and Tyler Hero together? Because, Davion Mitchell's this big, strong guy. He's not that tall. I mean, I was watching this Hawks and Houston game today. I mean, literally, apart from Reed Shepherd and Trey, every other player on the court was basically 6'9" plus there. So can you afford to play both those two together? I'm not quite sure.
Probably not. I mean, Davion's very limited. He's a good defensive player, and he can get the team into the offense. He's a below-average offensive player. Can't knock down the 3 consistently. So, it's, that playoff run was maybe an aberration because the rest of his NBA career, he's not done much, right? So
Tyler Hero as well thinks that defense is that thing that surrounds his house. So I'm not sure, that's going to sort of work there. So, maybe the answer to that is no, you can't play them both.
No, I think it's no. And I think Terry Rozier, he's just got to be like the third string point guard here. Like, I mean, unless he's found something in the offseason, he really looked like he was at the end of it last year. So, so, I mean, do you think they should get a point guard? like
Well, mate, I'm all
Westbrook.
about the Russell Westbrook thing, so
Yeah.
I think they could give him a go. I think that Heat culture thing there, he's a hard-working player, Russell Westbrook. He could come on and, yeah, go and get Russell Westbrook. That's my answer to that one.
All right, cool. Okay, the next one I want to talk to you about is Nikola Jovic, right? How do we say this? Jovic?
I think
Jovic,
it's
right?
Jovic, yeah.
It's Jovic, right? Now I'm going to read. Basically, Sydney's asked, like, he thinks that this is going to be a breakout here for Nikola, right? And I've done a bit of research and I've got my notes together, and I'll read you what I've written, and then we can break down what Sid has said. So, Jovic was limited to 46 regular season games last year. He had a fractured right hand, costing him time towards the end of the campaign. He had a career year, posting averages of 10.7 points, 3.9 rebounds, and 2.8 assists in 25 minutes per game, right? He's got crafty playmaking skills. And I was thinking that he could be that sixth man in Miami, but you said he started ahead of Khalil Ware yesterday. It's not like, he could eventually hold down that starting gig, right?
Yeah.
Full time. So what Sid has said is what excites him for this season is his breakout season. And he talks about his time playing in Eurobasket with Serbia and playing and training with Nikola Jokic, with the Joker, sorry. So, and that will help him develop, right? And he goes on to say, I don't know if you saw Jokic slap Jovic, but it was a grown man slap. A real learning moment for the young man, as was the pain of losing to Sengun and the Turkish team, and then to Markkanen and the Finns. Two close, high-level games. So, in a nutshell, what we're saying here is the experience that he garnered playing Eurobasket, along with the opportunities that are going to be afforded to him this season, is the perfect chance for him to step up and have that breakout year.
Well, firstly, I want to ask you, Woods, how would you respond if I slapped you in a game on our Thursday night comp in a timeout or something? You wouldn't be too happy about that, would you? Firstly,
Not at all. Not at all.
But yeah, look, I agree. I think he's a player that Miami have got really high expectations for this guy. I've heard, he's basically a no in terms of trade talk over the last 12 months. So they obviously really see something with this guy. And yeah, he's shown some signs, as Sid and yourself mentioned there, playing for the Serbian national team there. So yeah, I think this is a big season for him. He's a big unit, right? So he's someone that can play that 4 and 3 position there. As shown by his assist today in that pre-season game, even albeit only a pre-season game, that they want to facilitate the team a little bit through him when he's on the court there, and they like doing that through the big guys, don't they? You've seen that with Bam Adebayo as well. So I hope it is a breakout season for him. He just got a recent contract extension as well, so that's something I think that's probably showing they've got some high expectations. I'm just going to confirm that contract. That was only a couple of days ago, a 4-year, $62 million extension 2 days ago there, or so would. So
yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
pretty decent. So yeah, I think it's going to be certainly a player to watch this year. Maybe could be fantasy relevant as well for someone that's looking for that guy to sort of break out in a fantasy perspective there as well. Could be a man.
Yeah, so 62.4 million for 4 years. Sid just gave me that tidbit as well.
Yeah.
2.8% assists per game last year. That's something you'd like to see him improve on. He's such a terrific playmaker, as you said. They like to run some offense through the bigs, and I think that's one area he can really improve on this year. Can you play Khalil Ware and him together?
I think you can definitely play
of
those
course.
together. I think you can also play a bit of Khalil Ware and Bam Adebayo together. I wouldn't be sort of too concerned about that. So just going back, looking at those stats, though, Wood, so 23 minutes, he had 9 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, a couple of steals there. So that's pretty solid there to get 7 assists, albeit in a preseason game is impressive. But I think you can play all sorts of those combos, Ware and Adebayo, Ware and Jovic there, and obviously, Jovic and Bam there. So I like that front court in my
Yeah, me too. And finally, are you going to get a jersey?
Like if anyone on the Heat team, or?
No, a Jovic jersey.
Oh, Jovic jersey. Ooh, no, probably there's a few more in front of him. I was sort of looking through the NBA store actually last night, even though the price is a bit higher there. I want to get a couple of new jerseys soon. Probably won't be a Jovic jersey, but look, if I was getting a Miami jersey, I do like me some Norm Powell, so maybe it could be a bit of Norm Powell, but no Jovic jersey for now.
Yeah, well, there you go, Sid. Robbie went all over LA looking for a Norm Powell jersey, and he found one, right?
Very pleased to get that one too, and then they traded him.
Okay, final burning question. Should the Miami Heat move on from Pat Riley? Now, Sid outlines that he had great success over the previous decades, the 80s, 90s, and whatnot, right, with various different franchises. Um, he's 80 years old now. The way the game is played is completely different. He talks about the shot charts today compared to the shot charts in decades gone by. Um, is it time for looking somewhere fresh? And he even put out the name of Chris Bondgrass there as an option, right?
Interesting. Look, it's definitely a good question, isn't it? Has the game passed him a little bit now? They've certainly had some competitive teams, no doubt, over the last 10 years. The last couple of seasons, I think, the last 2 seasons anyway, the season before that, they're in the finals. But yeah, look, maybe it'll depend on how this season goes. He's such a highly respected player, and they do have that sort of close-knit front office there, don't they, in Miami? So it's probably easier said than done that they might get rid of him. It's probably going to be someone with his pedigree that goes out on his own terms. But yeah, watch this space, I think, if they do have a season where they maybe just creep into the play-in or potentially don't even make it there in a competitive Eastern Conference. Maybe we might see a move, but yeah, I don't see it happening anytime soon, really.
Yeah, well, Sid, I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate here, right? I know he's getting a bit older. The game has changed a lot over the years, but you look at he's taken them to the 23 NBA Finals, right? Yeah. The 2020 NBA Finals as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Without a proper point guard all these years, right? They've won a championship, with Damon Jones at the point guard, right? So, despite not having a high-level point guard over the whole franchise's history, apart from Tim Hardaway, also the ability for Pat Riley to make things work. And as you said earlier, Spurs' equal opportunity sort of offense has made this team successful despite its shortcomings over the years. So who's to say that it is time for him to go? But yeah, I think this year it'll be telling, right? Because after that 2023 success, we've had a couple of bad years, Robbie. So
I've got to say, if Mario Chalmers is listening to this podcast, he might not be very happy, right?
Yeah.
He had a decent part to play in those finals wins there, so
yeah,
hopefully my voice holds out.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've had solid guys there, right? But yeah.
All right, I appreciate that, Woods, and appreciate Sid as well. What do you call him on our group chat? The third member of the Throwback Hoops team. I like that one there. So, one of our favourites there, and probably someone we need to get back on. We've done a live podcast with him, when we were in Atlanta. A year and a half ago now. So maybe he's someone we get back on this season. I'm sure he'd be keen to kick it with us there. So yeah, keep your phone on standby there, Sid.
Thanks, Sid. Appreciate it.
Nice. Well, I'm going to do the Golden State Warriors there, Woods. So I appreciate you putting up that depth chart there. So, maybe we'll start with that before I go into my 3 questions there. Look, what an old team, right? We thought that Clippers team was old. I mean, that starting lineup is almost hard to believe, isn't it? Steph Curry, Buddy Hield, Jimmy Butler, Draymond, and Big Al Horford, who signed last week. So that's got to be one of the oldest starting fives I think you'll ever see in the NBA there. I don't think the Hawks have anyone older than any of those players starting there. By the way, Woods, Hawks, 3rd youngest team in the NBA this season, which is pretty cool considering how the expectations and some of the players there. They've really got a young team. So, look, it's not a bad team still, is it? You look, it's a strong starting five, championship pedigree there. Some decent, I wouldn't call them young players now. They're kind of, in their, 3rd, 4th, and 5th seasons there. You've got guys like Pods, you've got Moses Moody and Kuminga there. So, not a bad team. They've also brought back DeAnthony Melton and Gary Payton II, which was only confirmed last week as well. So, look, it's not a bad roster there. I'll go into my first burning question, I guess there, Woods. And that is, can an aging team like this compete for a championship? Last year they went 48-34. They brought back mostly the exact same team with the addition of 39-year-old 5-time All-Star Al Horford. Look, the answer for me in terms of competing for a championship is probably a no. I don't think it's a championship team on paper, but certainly they've got some vets there that have been there and done that could be a tricky playoff opponent. So yeah, probably that's my thoughts there. Maybe not a championship team, but a tricky playoff team there. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I mean, the thing with them is this is probably the last little window they have for success, right? A lot of these guys are at the very end, and I just think if not now, it's not going to happen, right?
Did you like the Al Horford signing?
I did, but I mean, look, it just adds a little bit of age to that already aging lineup, right? Yeah. You look at that starting lineup: Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Al Horford, right? Is Jonathan Kuminga going to play meaningful minutes this year?
I think they'll have to, right? They signed him to a decent amount of money. Someone that I'll talk about that in my next question there, but I think they have to play him. Look, in terms of Al Horford there, I love Al Horford, of course, there, but is it maybe stunting that growth of guys like Trace Jackson Davis and Quentin Post there? 2 young guns that have shown a little bit in their career. Quinton Post was a real breakout player last year, so I guess they've got some good backup depth if he does get an injury or something here and there. Well, my second question involves Jonathan Kuminga there, Wood. So, and that is, will this be the year that both Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody take that next step? So, Kuminga was the 7th pick in 2021. Moody was the 14th pick in that same year. Moody is only 23 years of age. Kuminga's a little bit older there, but I don't know. I thought Kuminga had a solid last season with the Warriors there, 15.3 and 4.6, but most of his key stats, including all of the 3 percentages, actually dropped considerably as well. So field goal, 3-point, and free throw all really dropped there. So that was a little bit of a worry. Moses Moody averaged close to 10 points a game last year, playing a career-high 22 minutes a game. So I think these are the two young guns. I mean, guys that they've kept the faith in, drafted 4 years ago, both top 14 picks there. What are you expecting from these two this season, and can you see a breakout season from one or maybe even both of them?
Well, Jonathan Kuminga is the guy who's got so much talent, right? But it's just not come to the fore. Moses Moody is going to be what he's going to be. He's going to be a guy coming off the bench, giving you instant offense. Yeah. But Jonathan Kuminga is a guy in this league who can be, a next level player to Moses Moody, right? And we want to see that come to the fore this year, whether it be his attitude or the way he acts in practices and develops that relationship with Steve Kerr is the question. But he's got 1 year here, right? Yeah. And he's got to make the most of it. And as I said, a lot of other executives and stuff are looking around to see what kind of attitude he has this year, how he deals with this whole situation in Golden State. So I'd like to see it from him.
His minutes and his role really went down after the Jimmy Butler trade, didn't they? But that Jimmy Butler trade, I think regular season-wise, they were something like 25 and 5 or something. They really played well with that team towards the back end of the season after the trade deadline there. So, yeah, look, I'd like to say that one of them at least, maybe it's someone like Moses Moody. Maybe he does fill that bench role and he ends up surpassing, or maybe even a starting role. He surpasses Buddy Hield and maybe gets that starting role there. Even Pods as well is another one to probably watch out for. Brandon Pajinski there, he's a solid player. He had a pretty good last season. So, yeah, I like it. They've at least got some youngish talent as well with that old starting lineup there. So, well, the last question is, Woods, does having the great Steph Curry still make this team a must-watch League Pass team? For me, despite not being a fan of Butler or Draymond Green, which I've been pretty vocal about over the years there, watching Steph Curry there he's just magic, isn't he? He's someone that if I was flicking across to see which team was on and saw Golden State was on, I'm going to watch Golden State just to see what Curry can do on a nightly basis there. And honestly, he's in as good a shape as we've seen him. Doesn't appear to have slowed down. However, his injuries are still a bit of a concern, right, Woods? I think the highest amount of games he's played since 2018 was 74. That was a couple of seasons ago. So, two-part question for yourself there, Woods.
Okay.
With Curry, do you consider the Warriors a must-watch League Pass team? And also, second part, how much do you trust him to stay healthy?
Yes, always. And definitely a must-watch League Pass team. And the reason I say that is we talked about LeBron, we talked about Chris Golding the other day, right? The guys are at the very end of their career. You might not get the opportunity to see them for much longer. So while they're still playing, of course, man, and he's just, worth the price of admission. And, you turn on the TV to watch players like Steph. So that's never going to change. And the second question was, can he stay healthy?
Yeah, right? Whether you trust him to stay healthy, which is certainly a big if, isn't it?
I trust him to stay healthier than some other people in the league, right? But at the same point, you'll be happy if you get 60, 65 games out of him at this age, the way he plays, right? Running so much and, it's...
Well, do you remember last year, D'Anthony Melton went down pretty early with injury, didn't he? And he was playing pretty well before that. So maybe that's someone that could shoulder a little bit of the load. I mean, this is clearly a team that's built more for the playoffs than the regular season there. Yeah. So if you can get some minutes out of Prizm and D'Anthony Melton there and maybe, give Curry a bit of a spell there and maybe reduce his minutes there, that could, prolong his season as such.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the front court as well, you asked me about Al Horford, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, that front court's going to have rest and outs, and so Trace Jackson Davis, Quinton Post, who we almost didn't talk about, who made a lot of strides last year, will also have to play meaningful minutes in the regular season. As you said, Horford and Green and stuff might be rested on back-to-backs, things like that, right? So,
And as a special bonus question and a shout-out to my daughter, Emily, who I know will be listening to this later, as I've mentioned a few times, their favourite player in the whole NBA is Buddy Hield. How do you see his role? I thought he was still pretty solid last year for Golden State. Do you still see him having an important season for the Warriors?
Yeah, definitely. And there was various times last season when Curry was out and there's injuries to other people, and Buddy Hield was able to step into a more prominent role. So I think with Buddy, he knows what the team needs from him on any given day, and he'll fit into that role. And that's the kind of player you want on your team. So
He does seem like a good guy, doesn't he? Sort of, lightens the mood a bit. Him and Jimmy Butler have got a pretty funny relationship, always, having a bit of a laugh there. So I like him on the team. Shout out to Ems, who'll be cheering him on. She's already drafted him in a fantasy league, probably a couple of rounds too high there, but hey, she had to have him on the team. So shout out to Jimmy Butler there. So sorry to Buddy Hield. So all right, Woods, that was fun. Another couple of teams in the bag there, and I appreciate your research and as well as Sydney contributing there. So we'll talk a little bit of NBL now, right?
Yeah, no worries.
I know you're going to put up that slide there. So what I wanted to ask you before we get into this and do a little bit of a recap, the teams that played last week and the games this week, is talk to me about this Ignite Cup, right? I know you're all excited. You got your ticket today, which obviously wasn't included in your season tickets there, which is a bit of a bummer there. But maybe people that don't know about it, what is this Ignite Cup and how does it all work?
All right, so the Ignite Cup is part of the regular season, even though it's not part of Sydney Kings member season ticket.
That's tough. Yeah.
But it's part of the regular season. So we get 20 games on Wednesday nights, right? It starts tomorrow with 2 games tomorrow night. So it'll be an overall of 20 games, right? Yeah. The winner gets 3 points, and it's one for a win, and then it's 1 point per quarter, right? So this scorecard this table is kept outside of the normal NBL ladder, but it'll just be a normal win or loss to the overall NBL ladder. You with me so far?
So you get one home game, one away game. Is that the 20? So
yes.
Two games per team?
Yes.
Yep.
You do. Correct. Each team gets one home, one away, right? Yeah. That's 10 teams, 2 games each. Yes, correct. Yeah. And and the top 2 teams at the end of that go to the Gold Coast to play the final. All right. Now the final is going to be outside of the regular season. Obviously, it's an additional game. Yep. The prize money, and I've just got it up in front of me here. It is $400,000 prize money with 60% going directly to the players. So that's pretty good. Yeah. And what else is it? It's always on Wednesday night. That's it. Starts tomorrow. Yeah.
Nice, good recap. And I think the NBL wanted to do that, right? So essentially that means Monday and Tuesday are probably the only nights of the week you're not really going to get some Aussie basketball hoops now. And obviously Monday we have overtime, which is the big show that we enjoy watching. Tuesday or Monday we normally get that great YouTube and podcast show called Throwback Hoops. So yeah, that's great, isn't it? So Wednesday games. We'll start off. We've got a double header this week. So before we sort of go more into the games there, we'll do a little bit of a recap. So Breakers are playing the Hawks there. Let's start with the Breakers, right? They're really struggling at the moment, aren't they? I think they're the only... Oh, no, the Hawks haven't won either. So this is 2 winless teams playing in this one there. So what are your thoughts on the Breakers? What's not working for these guys so far?
I mean, Coach Kopp is a bit confused about what he wants to do.
Is his job on the line?
Yeah, I think his job is on the line, and I think he's very much concerned about that, right? Yeah. And, people aren't playing. We saw Colin Davidson play earlier. He's not been playing much. He hasn't got much faith in Brockington. I'll tell you what, I saw the whole New Zealand team in the locker room after the Sydney Kings game. They were all there at the pub.
And the locker room's a pub, not the actual locker room, right?
No, it's a pub, right? Yeah, and a lot of them were, seemed like they were having fun and whatnot. Ruben Tarangi came in, had a chat to us. We talked to Rob Baker. We're like, tell Coach to put you in the game a little bit more, because he had a good game. I just think that team that we saw in the preseason at the Blitz, right? We haven't seen that in these first few games, and I think getting that local talent was all well and good. You talked about it: Rob Lowe, Sam Menenga, Isaiah Liafa, right? Yeah. But are they going to move the needle? These guys. You look at the other centers in the league, right? Even Tim Suarez can compete with the likes of Menenga, but Menenga goes and he has to take on Jack Edwards. He's got to take on JaVale McGee. You look around the league, at the 36ers, you got Isaac Humphries, right? It's not going to be easy for him wherever he goes, right?
Good call. And what about the Hawks as well? So both teams are going to be hungry for a win there. The Hawks, they've only played a couple of games so far, but any concerns for them so far, or is it early days?
Look, it's early days. Do you know Dave O'Hickey's not back tomorrow, is he?
I still haven't heard the confirmation of that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a big out for them. I think they're going to need more from McLaughlin, right? But as a lot of people said, he came in here being backup to Hickey, and he's playing starting minutes. So I mean, if Dave Hickey doesn't play, the Breakers will really have a point to prove and want to win that game. So they could possibly steal that one with Dave Hickey out. I'm gonna give the Hawks in a close one. Yeah.
I think there's too much on the line for Hawks to go 0-3 there. So, yep, Hawks to me. Well, in the game, you'll be out tomorrow there. So, Sydney taking on United. It's a really good game, that one there. You're obviously pretty happy to see Sydney get that first up win against the Brokers last week, right?
Yeah, I was happy to see them get the win, but I mean, it wasn't that convincing. We were up by 4 or 5 at halftime, and then look, the third quarter and fourth quarter, defensively we got at it, and looked a lot better. But as I said, that it's not too much to. This is the real test. You're coming up against a quality team in United who've had a great start to the season. They've just gone up against an NBA team and really held their own.
It's been a funny schedule for them too, right? They've been really impressive in those first couple of NBL games. They just had the one game. It was last Friday against the Pelicans there, and now they're travelling for this new Ignite Cup there. So you're expecting obviously Melbourne to put up a big fight in this one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other storyline is Delhi playing against his old team for the first time, right? So that should be an interesting arc.
And Shea Illy perhaps is going to miss this one.
He's out. He's out.
Will be out, right? And someone else went down as well, didn't they?
Yeah, I think he's all right though. Tyson Walker's okay. He had a finger issue, but yeah.
So either way, Dash Daniels is getting some more minutes in this game, isn't he, with Shea Illy out?
Yeah,
there,
absolutely.
So. Well, I'll give a prediction to start off with this one. I think Sydney might win this one. I think I know I'm a bit higher on the Sydney team than you, which is the first time we probably ever said that, but I'll pick Sydney in this initial Ignite Cup game. What about you?
Shea Illy being out might just give it to Sydney slightly, right?
Yeah, okay. And no bad blood with Delhi changing teams, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, all right, cool. All right, so we've got just the standalone game on Thursday there. We've got the 36ers taking on the Jack Jumpers. The 36ers were pretty impressive against Cairns in that game last week, weren't they? Still, trying to find that third import and just, trying to get the second import in now. It's funny to say that now that Bryce Cotton's an actual Aussie. What's your thoughts on the 36ers and especially that game against the Taipans last week?
Well, they look like a together unit. Everyone's getting along. You bring a guy like Bryce Cotton into that team, it's great. Nick Rakosovic seemed like he fitted in right away, right?
Good boy, isn't he?
Yeah. And yeah, look, I mean, DJ not getting it going, but still he's going to get his, right? When you've got these two great shooters playing alongside each other, there's going to be some games when, DJ just, is a decoy and helps out in various different ways and is still contributing even though he's not doing it on the score sheet, right? So we're going to see days when he does it, but that 36ers team looked great. I think it is a bit of a blessing in disguise that they've lost Montrezl Harrell, and they're going to compete for a championship this year.
It's funny, we saw a lot of great players changing teams. We've got two in Sydney. We talked about Cotton, Jack McVeigh as well, but Flynn Cameron for me was one of those ones that went under the radar. He's a really handy player. I love the way that guy plays. So he's going to be a sneaky good player for Adelaide this year. And for the Jack Jumpers, they saw their new import coming last week. What were your thoughts on him?
TJ Stark
for David Johnson.
Yeah, I mean he was great. Look, my initial thought was they brought him in here as a potential replacement for Tiger Campbell if they weren't happy with Tiger Campbell when DJ comes back, right? But by all reports, he's got a job lined up straight after this, so he's just coming in to do his six games or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it might be up to 10 games. Scott Roth was saying it could be, So, I think that's great, and he just fitted in like a glove. That Brisbane team, undermanned and really fought hard. So I think the Jack Jumpers, they've got off to a good start, right?
That was a pretty enjoyable game, wasn't it? Brisbane against Tassie there. It went down. There's a couple of controversial calls at the end there. A couple of charged calls that maybe could have been called, could have been called. But look, the Jackies obviously came out with the dub there, and they'll be sort of fired up for this game. Really good game on paper, isn't it? This one. I mean, apart from your game you're going to tomorrow, this actually Adelaide and Sydney's pretty big as well, but this is a pretty big one on paper. So, what's your prediction for this one?
36ers in a club. 36ers probably win it by a bit.
Yeah, I'll say 36ers by a handful there. So Friday night, another standalone game. We've got Taipans taking on the mighty Perth Wildcats. So looking forward to this one. Cairns obviously strange, aren't they, this year? They've sort of, lost. They've been a little bit up and down, a little bit inconsistent there. Firstly, Woods, they've got to get Jack McVeigh some more shot attempts than they did in that game last week, right?
Yeah.
Less than 10 attempts with a great Jack McVeigh.
Yeah, he had 6 turnovers as well, though, so I wasn't really impressed with the way he played in that game either, right? So I think you never know which Cairns team is going to turn up on any day. Like Adam Ford was saying, oh man, the guys are tired after back-to-back last week. I mean, they had a decent enough break, right, to get up and compete. So I don't think that's an excuse. I'm still... Let's see. It's Jekyll and Hyde team, right, that we've seen so far this year, right? So
Well, the Wildcats haven't been exactly convincing, even though they've won a couple now. They weren't looking great in that first half against Illawarra, but had a really good second half there. So I think they'll be pretty rested. Just playing the one game last week. Obviously, it's a very long road trip to go from Perth to Cairns. There, they have traditionally travelled pretty well there, but they've obviously had Bryce Cotton in those games, who loves playing up there. And yeah, look, I think they showed some signs last week. Jaron really continues to impress. I'm liking Ben Henschel's defense coming off the bench and just being an irritant there, and forcing the point guard to use a lot of that shot clock, bringing the ball up, which has been pretty impressive there. Yeah, Dylan Windler had a pretty solid game last week as well. So
14 boards.
Yeah, he was good, wasn't he, on the board? So look, I'll pick my Wildcats in this one, but probably a bit of a danger game, I would have thought.
Yeah, I'm with you. Wildcats to win in a canter.
All right, we'll maybe go through these a little bit quicker as we are going a little bit long there. So we've got Illawarra playing Brisbane. Look, as we mentioned, Illawarra, they need that win. Hopefully, for their sake, they'll get that win tomorrow night. Brisbane's certainly just been hit by the injury bug there. So what's your thoughts on this game?
Hawks to win. I mean, Brisbane have got a lot of outs. Hopefully Liberty comes back. Freeman Liberty comes back, right? And
the Prather one was a surprise too. We knew Freeman Liberty was out. We knew McDaniel and Norton was out, but that was just an extra whammy to get him out there, and basically 4 of their potential 5 or 6 best players that didn't play in that game last week. So yeah, even if they get a few of those back, I think Illawarra will be too strong.
Love Tane Murray, by the way.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, he's great.
He was really impressive, wasn't he? Shout out to him. And a couple of unsung guys that stood up in that game that have probably earned some more minutes for going this season now. So big double header there. So 36 is taking on the Kings. I know you'll be looking forward to that one there. Look, we've spoken about both those teams now, so maybe just get a prediction. I'm going to continue being high on Sydney. I'm going to say they win this one. Of course, this is the rematch for Kendrick Davis being in Adelaide, which is going to be really fun. There'll be a lot of booing there. There's no doubt about that. They're pretty parochial.
That's a spicy game, man.
Yeah, looking forward to this one, right?
Yep. I'm going to go 36ers to win at home.
So did you pick them to beat Melbourne, or are you picking him to go 0-2? You did pick him to
win against the Jack Jumpers and the Kings. The 2-0, yeah.
Oh, fair enough. So now that's going to be a must-watch game. That one, isn't it? That's one that I think a lot of people have had on the calendar seeing. Davis go back into Adelaide there. Then Sunday we finish off with another doubleheader. Breakers and South East Melbourne. Not the greatest game on paper, I've got to say, if I'm being honest there. Hopefully, for Breakers' sake, like I said, for Illawarra, they get a decent performance tomorrow. I'm going to say Breakers win this one, actually.
I'm going to say SEM win this one. And if that happened and the Breakers lose both these games, right, that could be very close to the end for Coach Cobb.
For Coach Cobb, fair enough. And then we'll finish off with United taking on the Taipans there. So, look, I think United could win this one pretty handsomely. Even if they do have a few players out, they seem to play well against Cairns. So, Melbourne for me.
Agreed.
All right, that was fun, Wood. So, yeah, certainly a big round. The Ignite Cup starting, some really good games on paper. There's some revenge games there. So, yeah, hopefully everyone can get out and support and watch all those games there. So, look, we're going to finish off with a bit of true-false, as we always do, Woods. I know we haven't had classic packs for a week or two now. We've just run a little bit long, so maybe we'll get that going in the next week or two there. But true or false? After the success of the New Orleans Pelicans visiting Australia for this NBA pre-season, will they continue for years to come to have these NBA, NBL games in Australia?
True. I don't know if it'll be every year. It might be every 2 or 3 years, but yes.
Yeah. Let's hope so, right? And, mix up the teams, right? Maybe look for some of those teams that have got some Aussie players there. I mean, how good to get Chicago with Giddy, or get the Hawks with Dyson Downing, or some of those teams that have got really contributing starting big players there. So that'd be cool. Yeah, definitely true for me. Second one, New Zealand Breakers look like a lock for the wooden spoon right now.
False.
Ooh, okay.
Cairns, I'm not convinced, man. I still think they're bad. I think Brisbane's bad.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Brisbane have been competitive, but there's a lot of bad teams. People say it's a really competitive league. Those 3 teams, right, and SEM, I can't see them beating the other 6 that much.
I'm going to say true, but look, things can change very quickly. If New Zealand was to get a couple of home wins this week, right? If they won those, that could really change things around. But for now, I'm going to say true. Take it to the NBA now. So Anthony Edwards will take another leap this season and will finish top 3 in MVP voting. True or false?
I'm a big fan. I'm going to say true.
Yeah. Look, I think so. I think it's clear that big sort of 4 or 5 are the international guys. You've got your Joker, you've got Giannis, you've got Luka, you've got SGA there. But I think he could take that lead this season. They're a pretty solid team, the Wolves there. So yeah, top 3, I can see that happening. So I'll say true for that one. All right, this is one a bit of NBL/NBA for this one, but Bulls rookie center Lachlan Olbrich will get to play right away for the Chicago Bulls this season.
I'm gonna have to look at that depth chart, right? What's he on the center depth chart now? Second?
Yeah, I have to sort of check that as well. But look, I think he could, right? I think he's someone that they do have some high hopes there. Vooch has obviously got the starting job,
Yep.
locked down there. But in terms of that backup there, they're a funny team, Chicago there. So,
All right, you got Zach Collins there and Jalen
Yeah.
Smith as well. So I'm gonna say false.
Okay,
Right?
false.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, Smith's someone that's had injury problems in the past there. Zach Collins, yeah. I mean, maybe he could be fighting for someone like him, veteran
Yeah.
against rookie to see who gets those minutes there. All right, Woods, we've actually got a special bonus last question that's not on the run sheet for true or false this week. Okay, true or false? The NBL website, or NBL app, I should say, in particular the live scoring and the box scores and everything else like that, is an absolute disgrace.
It's a joke, man. It's true. Like, how
What
hard
is
is it?
going on?
How hard is it? The amount of money they put into like super coach for NBA,
Yeah.
this or that. Look, if anyone in the country wants to go and look at a live score as to what is happening during the game on a box score, what do they do now?
Yeah. I've got to say, Woods, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed, honestly.
Yeah.
It's really disappointing to see this. You go on there, right? There's been, missing players in starting fives. There's scores that basically haven't updated after half time. Then what was the one that we picked up?
Cassius Winston was starting for
So
Southeast
two
Melbourne.
random players. I'm not sure if they fixed up now on the Southeast Melbourne box score against the Pelicans. Two random players. I think they're players that are in the European League there. They didn't have Geordie Hunter. They didn't have John Brown III. They had two random players that aren't even in the NBL, basically.
Yeah,
there.
Cassius Winston. I can't remember the other one. I know who
I don't
he is.
remember
Yeah,
it as well.
yeah.
Yeah, someone with a funny name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought
Justman
really
or something. Justman. Yeah.
disappointing to see it. We're ones that we want to grow the NBL, right? We amateur hour type thing, right? That's not a great look. NBL needs to fix this. It's been all over social media. They must be aware that there's issues with this app there. So get it right and do better, right?
Yeah, man. I go to nbl.com.au and sometimes it works there, right? Slightly better than actually using the app, right?
Interesting.
But
Yeah.
so obviously the data is just not feeding correctly from that website to the app, right? Yeah,
It's 2025. Do better.
yeah I
Right.
agree.
You like that bonus on there, right?
Yeah, I do. That's true.
All right. Appreciate it, Woods. Well, it's been another fun show. Geez, we've got a lot coming up in the next few weeks, don't we?
One
We've got
thing.
some-
One correction before Sid has a go at me, right? I
Ooh,
said that the Miami Heat won a championship in the early 2000s with Damon Jones as the starting point guard. I was wrong. He left the team. It was the year after, and the starting point guard was that team with Gary Payton and Jason Williams, you mentioned, Jason Capono and whatnot. So it was actually 2005-06, but still, by that time, Gary Payton, Jason Williams were well past it, right? So
Knowing the way Damon Jones has that high opinion of himself, he probably tells people he was a starting point guard of that team. So maybe you were half right there. So, no, good pick up. So, yeah, another fun show, Woods. As I mentioned at the start, please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. The usual social media there. Look out for us on X. Woods will get this up there. Maybe even get a bit of a Baron Davis bobblehead there, Woods. So a bit of that and a bit of Admiral Schofield. Right, loving that bobblehead. That's really nice, that one. Yeah, basically Patreon for those that want to contribute a few dollars. So, help with all the production costs and everything. We'd really appreciate that. As I teased before, we do have some guests coming up. NBA season's so close. We're going to be doing those predictions that we do every year, Woods, which is always fun. Where will the Hawks finish? All these other sort of things like that. Will I hate on Miami, like I always seem to do in those playoff and play-in predictions there? But yeah, give me some final thoughts. What are you looking forward to in this next round of games in the NBL?
well, I mean, the Ignite Cup, I mean, it just adds another thing to it. I would have liked the NBL to promote it a little bit better so people knew about it. Hopefully people are listening to this right now will go, okay, cool, we can...
They can promote it on the app that Wood was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, can we find the Ignite Cup ladder on the app? What are the chances of us actually finding the Ignite Cup ladder on the NBL app? Do you think we can?
Hopefully. Let's hope so.
All right, and I've got to thank Sid. Sydney Seeking, not only are you a great contributor to this program, you're a great friend of Robbie and I, and we thank you very much for helping out with this episode, brother.
Mate, he's had a lot of shout-outs this episode, hasn't he? Hope he enjoys that. So let us know what you think, Sid. We're looking forward to bring it back next week. Maybe we'll get some classic packs going again as well. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we've done that, but there's been so much to talk about. There hasn't been time for it, right? So,
Yep.
All right, Roods, really appreciated all your efforts for this week. I'm glad my voice has kind of held up. It's pretty sore right now. I might need some hot water and some lemon or something. But yeah, for the Throwback Hoops crew, it's a big peace out, and we'll do it all again next week.